Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a really quite an extraordinary set of source materials. We're digging into a quest for ultimate knowledge, liberation, drawn from these ancient Pali texts, specifically the Sutta Nipata. It's less like reading a textbook and more like listening in on these profound encounters from the past.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that it's not just some dry academic look at philosophy. It's actually presented as, well, a series of direct dialogues, real conversations. You get these fundamental questions about existence, suffering, freedom, people asking them directly.
And getting direct answers, like a historical record almost, of seekers approaching a teacher. So our sources detail this initial mission, the people involved, and the insights they were hoping to gain.
Right. And our goal today really is to kind of distill the core wisdom from these conversations, offer you perhaps a bit of a shortcut to understanding some fundamental ideas that honestly still resonate today, help cut through the noise.
Okay, so let's unpack this initial mission then. Where does this whole journey begin? What sets it off?
It starts with a really compelling story about a Brahmin, a guy named Bhavari. He was known as a master of ancient lore, very learned, and he left his home in Kosala, seeking solitude down in Dakappa, near the Godavari River. He lived a very simple life, non-possession, just gleanings and fruits.
A wise recluse, basically, living off the land. But I gather things didn't stay quiet for long. What happened?
Well, yeah, eventually a large village kind of grew up around where he was, and this actually gave him some income, enough to perform a great sacrifice. But then comes the twist. Another Brahmin shows up, penniless, dusty, demanding 500 coins.
Oh, and Barbary, living the simple life, probably didn't have it.
He couldn't provide it, and this other Brahmin, furious, delivers this terrifying curse. He says, "On the seventh day, may your head split into 7 pieces."
Wow, that's pretty intense. So Barbary must have been completely distraught, couldn't even meditate.
Totally distraught. He couldn't focus, couldn't find peace. But then he gets some help. Divine intervention, actually. A deity appears.
A deity. What did it reveal?
It told him the cursing Brahmin was basically a fraud, just after money, and that this guy had no real understanding of the head or head splitting he was talking about. It was an empty threat, spiritually speaking.
Ah, okay. So not a real mystical danger, just manipulation. Did the deity offer a solution?
It did. It pointed Bhavari towards someone who did have true knowledge. It directed him to the Buddha, who was in Savatthi at the time, described him as the world's leader, enlightened, omniscient, fully liberated, a light bringer.
The ultimate authority, basically.
Oh.
So Bhavari must have been relieved.
Oh, overjoyed, immensely delighted, the text says. So he immediately gets his disciples ready. He picks 16 of his most learned students' figures like Ahita, Tisamateya, Putika, Metagu, Pikio.
16 of them. On an epic journey, I imagine.
A huge journey. They traveled this vast route, Mutaka, Ujjaini, Savatthi, Kapilabhatu, loads of places. Finally reaching Pasakasitiya in Magadha. And Bhavari gave them very specific instructions.
Right, about how to confirm they'd found the actual Buddha.
Exactly. First, look for the 32 marks of a great man, these, legendary physical signs. And then, crucially, test him by asking mental questions. Questions formulated just in their minds. If he was truly the Buddha, he'd perceive the mental question and answer it out loud.
That's quite a test. Okay, so the disciples arrive, they find the Buddha teaching monks. What happens next? Does Ahita step up?
Yes, Ashita takes the lead. He observes the Buddha, sees the marks, and then proceeds with the mental test. He mentally asks about Bhavari, his birth, his clan, his specific marks, his teaching expertise.
And the Buddha?
The Buddha answers every single question, verbally, accurately, confirms Bhavari is 120 years old, his clan, his 3 personal marks, his mastery of the 3 Vedas, his teaching of 500 students, just like Bhavari said.
Incredible. Validation complete. So then Ajita must have asked the big one, the question plaguing Bhavari.
That was the crucial moment, straight from Bhavari's distress. What is the head and what is the head splitting?
Then answer.
Profound and immediate. The Buddha says, ignorance of Vijay, that's the head, the root of it all.
Ignorance itself is the head.
Oh, okay.
And wisdom, BG, combined with faith, mindfulness, concentration, desire, and effort. That is the head splitting.
Yeah.
That's the force that shatters the ignorance. This direct, insightful answer just completely validated who they were speaking to.
Wow. That cuts right through, doesn't it? No complex ritual, just ignorance is the problem, wisdom is the solution. So with the Buddha's identity confirmed, the disciples then started asking their own questions, right?
Yes, now they had the chance. Ajita went first again, wanting to understand the world's problems more deeply. He asked, essentially, what covers the world? Why doesn't it shine? What stains it? What's its biggest fear?
Big questions. What were the answers? The Buddha laid it out. Ignorance, avijja, covers the world. That same ignorance again. It doesn't shine because of wavering, indecision, and heedlessness, carelessness, grasping, clinging, that's what smears it, and its greatest fear, suffering, dukkha.
So it really comes back to our own minds, our own actions, lack of understanding, lack of focus, attachment.
Precisely. It's not something external doing this to us, it's internal. Then Ajit asked about the streams, these currents of, craving and views that flow everywhere and seem to trap us. How do you stop them?
Right. How do you dam those streams?
The Buddha's answer: mindfulness is the dam. Mindfulness restrains them, and wisdom is what blocks them completely.
Mindfulness and wisdom. It sounds so simple, yet obviously very deep. So the core message seems to be about taking internal responsibility.
Absolutely. Cultivating these qualities is the path out. It's not about changing the world outside, but the mind inside. And Ajita kept going, asking about the ultimate cessation. When do wisdom, mindfulness, and even name and form our sense of self, body, and mind, when do they stop?
And the answer pointed to something really profound.
Yes, the Buddha said they cease with the cessation of consciousness itself, which points towards Nibbāna, a state beyond our usual conditioned experience.
Okay, so that's the deep philosophical side. But the Cūḷaniddesa also gets practical, doesn't it? I recall a section about solitude.
Oh yes, the rhinoceros horn sutta. It's quite striking. It presents this image of living alone, wandering alone, like a rhinoceros horn.
Why like a rhinoceros horn?
Well, the idea is that rhinos are solitary creatures. The sutta argues that attachments, even to friends and family, bring suffering. It compares companionship sometimes to tangled bamboo, hindering spiritual growth. The wise person alone is described as having the freedom of a wild deer.
That sounds quite stark. Does it completely reject companionship?
Not entirely. It does acknowledge that a wise, mindful companion is incredibly valuable, a true friend on the path. But it says if you can't find someone like that, it's better to go it alone. Like a king leaving a conquered kingdom behind, or like gold bracelets where two, they clang together, where one, it's silent.
Interesting metaphor. So what does this solitary life look like in practice, according to the text?
It describes the solitary sage as someone who overcomes wrong views, who is free from deceit, greed, all the defilements. They actively abandon worldly pleasures, family ties, wealth. They see attachments as like sores on the body. They have to endure hardships, cold, heat, hunger, insects, but they do it with strength, like a lion that isn't frightened by noises, or like wind passing through a net, not clinging.
So it requires immense self-discipline and resilience. But it's not just about enduring hardship, is it? There's a positive cultivation, too.
Definitely. The ideal solitary practitioner actively cultivates the Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and especially equanimity. They aim to remain untainted by the world, like a lotus flower rising clean from muddy water. It's a profound commitment to inner purity.
A very different path from the communal life most of us live. Okay, so Ahita asked his questions. We have this model of solitude. But the other 15 disciples also had questions, right?
Oh, absolutely. Each came forward with their own specific concerns, their own knots to untangle. It adds real depth.
Let's touch on a few of those. What were some of the other key issues raised?
Well, Kappa, for instance. He was worried about the flood of old age and death sweeping everyone away. He asked for an island, a refuge. The Buddha described that island as Nibbāna. Not a place, but a state of non-possession, non-clinging, the end of old age and death.
The destruction of death itself. Powerful. What about someone like Jatukani?
He asked for the path to peace, freedom from birth and old age. Very similar concerns. The Buddha advised him to renounce craving, especially for sensual pleasures, to grasp at nothing. If you don't grasp, defilements have no hold, death has no sway.
So again, letting go. Non-grasping seems to be a theme.
A major theme. Then you had Bhadravuta. He felt pursued by Mara, the personification of temptation, death, limitation. How do you escape Mara? Buddha's answer: cut off all grasping, craving, Adona. Whatever you grasp at, Mara follows. Let go, and Mara has nowhere to stand.
It's so direct.
Yeah.
What about Udaya? He asked about liberation through knowledge, breaking ignorance.
Right. The Buddha explained it involves abandoning sensual desires and mental distress, things like sloth, restlessness, remorse. It means cultivating purified equanimity and mindfulness. And crucially, seeing that delight is what entangles the world, realizing that craving must be abandoned to reach Nibbāna. And consciousness ceases when one stops delighting in feelings, internal or external.
Stop delighting in feelings. That's a tough one.
It's very subtle. Then Pozala asked about the knowledge of someone who sees nothing exists, someone who's gone beyond form perception. The Buddha explained that a Tathagata, an enlightened one, knows all states of consciousness, understands that delight is entanglement, and this deep discernment brings true knowledge.
Okay, and then there's Mogaraja. His question seems particularly famous. He had to ask 3 times.
Yeah. Yes, he struggled to get the question out, or perhaps wasn't ready for the answer initially. He asked how to live so that the king of death doesn't see him. The Buddha's answer was incredibly potent. Always mindfully observe the world as empty, suññatā. Abandon self-view, the idea of a fixed, permanent self. That's how you overcome death.
Viewing the world as empty. Not meaning worthless, but empty of inherent self.
Exactly. Empty of fixed, independent existence. Seeing phenomena as they are, arising and passing, without clinging to them as me or mine, it dismantles the very basis upon which the fear of death stands.
That's a radical shift in perception. And finally, you mentioned Piyagya, the elderly disciple.
Yes, Piyagya. Old, frail, couldn't physically make the journey back perhaps. He asked how he could abandon birth in old age now. The Buddha simply advised him, be heedful. Be mindful, and abandon form identification with the body, and abandon craving, Tanya.
And Piyagya's response is quite moving, isn't it?
It really is. He speaks about his deep devotion, how even though he's physically separated, he sees the Buddha constantly with his mind. He says his faith, his joy, his mind, his mindfulness, they never leave the Buddha's teaching. He remembers his past life, feeling stuck, floundering in mud, he says, until he encountered the Buddha, the one who had crossed the flood and was undefiled. It's a beautiful testament to the connection and transformation possible.
Truly. Okay, so we've journeyed from Bhavari's curse through the disciples' tests and profound questions to these varied paths towards liberation. Let's try to bring it together. What does all this ancient wisdom mean for you, listening now, navigating our own complex, information-saturated world?
Well, connecting it to the bigger picture, I think these dialogues offer a really powerful framework. They consistently point to the internal root causes of our suffering and entanglement. It's not out there primarily. It's ignorance, grasping, craving, attachment to our own perceptions and ideas of self.
And the solutions offered are also internal and quite direct. Cultivate mindfulness, develop wisdom, maybe reconsider our relentless need for constant companionship or worldly things. Actively work on letting go of that grasping, that craving, that fixed self-view.
Exactly. Which leads to a really important question for you, the listener. How might your experience of your own life, its joys, its challenges, everything, how might it change if you started to perceive it through this lens? Through the lens of, say, emptiness or non-clinging. Not in a negative way, but in a liberating way.
That's definitely something to think about. The journey of Bhavari's disciples, from that initial fear and uncertainty to direct understanding, it feels timeless. It mirrors our own search for clarity. So consider this. These teachings ultimately suggest that real freedom isn't about getting more, but about letting go. Letting go of self-view, attachments, even the delight that snares us. Finding freedom in that emptiness. What flood are you trying to cross in your own life? And could some piece of this ancient wisdom hold the key for you?